He's the voice of Free, Bad Company, The Firm, The Law, and for a time, Queen. This week, it's a 2014 archive interview with Paul Rodgers on the VVN Music Podcast. Hi, and welcome to episode 28 of the VVN Music Podcast. I'm Roger Wink, and our guest today is singer Paul Rodgers. Rodgers has had a career that would be the envy of most artists. In the 70s, he was the lead singer of Free and Bad Company. The 80s brought The Firm, the 90s was The Law, and the 2000s included a time with Queen and Paul Rodgers. Plus, throughout, Paul has had a very successful solo career. In early 2014, Rodgers released his latest solo effort, The Royal Sessions. The album was recorded in Memphis with the musicians of Royal Studios, which opened in 1956, and has recorded the likes of Al Green, Chuck Berry, Buddy Guy, Solomon Burke, Robert Cray, and many more. The Royal Sessions is a treasure trove of classic soul compositions performed by one of the great voices of the rock era. Rodgers took the sessions very seriously and carefully chose songs that represented the sound of Memphis, covering Otis Redding, O.V. Wright, Albert King, Sam and Dave, and many more. Where others have tried to recreate and pay tribute to the Memphis sound in the recent past, Rodgers has the pipes and the emotional delivery to truly make it happen. The Royal Sessions was received extremely well by the critics and the public alike, with Rodgers scoring hits on both the classic rock charts and, for the first time in his career, the Billboard Adult Contemporary chart with a cover of Ann Peebles' I Can't Stop the Rain. As with other archive interviews, these were not originally recorded for broadcast or streaming use, so sound quality is a bit below what we normally present. Well, congratulations on the new album.
Well, thanks, Roger. We're very, very pleased with the result. I mean, it's been amazing, the reaction, and it's not actually released yet, but it's the interest has been completely international in Japan and Australia and Europe and American Canada. It's just wonderful.
I've listened to it a number of times on the media site. The basic album I've heard. I haven't had a chance to hear the 3 bonus tracks that are on Amazon, I know. I don't know if they're going to be anywhere else or not. It's a great album.
Oh, thank you. I really appreciate it. We had such a blast making it. It was, it was a dream come true. I mean, this is the music that I listened to when I was 13, 14, 15, and it really powerfully influenced me. When I hit the road and decided I was going to try to, do something in the music business. And this music has stayed with me throughout all of the years, through Free, Bad Company, The Firm, and solo work, and QPR, and just everything that I've done. This has always been in back of, it's been the inspiration for it all. So when I walked into that studio and met the guys and we started playing, it was really like coming home.
Did you hit it right off with all the musicians? Because I know there was at least 3 there that were from the original 60s studio band.
Yes, indeed. Yeah, well, we did. They hadn't been told who was coming in. They'd only been told that that I was a singer and a songwriter, and so they had no preconceived ideas, no notions at all. And so they were like, "Well, who is this guy?" So the first song we kicked off with was That's How Strong My Love Is. And as soon as we went into it, we all knew we were on the same page here, speaking the same language and coming from the same place, really. And it was just, from the get-go, it was really, we really hit it off wonderfully.
You recorded this album. Everything was done live in the studio. You were in there with the musicians and everything, right?
That is correct, yeah. I did all the vocals, bar one, in the studio with the band. The one exception was Walk On By. I did that. I took that one away because I wanted to think about the new arrangement that the Reverend Charles had given it, and I wanted it to be right. I didn't just want to throw something on it, kind of. So I did that one in Perry's studio in New York. It's called Pi Studios, and we had a wonderful time doing that too, because everything was analog in the Royal Studios, and it's also analog up where Perry's place is. So the sound was just that beautiful, deep, lovely bass sounds. Everything analog is such a beautiful sound.
When I first saw the track listing for the album and I saw Walk On By, I was thinking to myself, well, that seems a little bit out of place, completely forgetting about the Isaac Hayes take on it.
It's interesting, actually, that a lot of people have said that to me. The first version that pops to mind is Dionne Warwick's version, and it's strange to me because I love Dionne Warwick's version and I love her as a singer. But Isaac Hayes' version hit me like a ton of bricks, and I thought it had hit everybody like that, and it had kind of almost superseded the original version, but apparently not. But anyway, that was our blueprint, the Isaac Hayes version. That's where we took it from, sure.
Have you ever recorded that way before with all the musicians in the studio, or have you done it more what's more traditional today?
Well, that's how I learned that when I first started recording, that's how I understood that you do it. I thought that was how it was done because I had listened to a lot of the soul, the Stax material, a lot of blues and everything was pretty much live in the studio, as it were, and that's what I assumed that they went for. They went for the take, the one that had spark to it. And how do you get that? And that's been the whole science of recording for me, is how do you get the one with the spark? And over the years, I've discovered that, for me anyway, it's not the 100th take. It's very often the first take. But first of all, you've done all the work outside of the studio. You've rehearsed, and then you walk in, and then you get maybe 2 or 3 takes. And if you haven't got it by then, it's time to move on and come back to it. But interestingly, with the guys, everything they were so first class. They were such masters of their genre. Some of the takes, let's see, some of the songs. I've Been Loving You Too Long. We discussed doing that, and I obviously knew the song. I mean, I'd sang it in the car and that kind of thing, but I'd never stood in front of a band and actually performed a song. So it was definitely a first take for me. And Michael Toll started. We just launched into it, out into the deep, really, just to try it. And at the end of it, we all sort of went, whew. We've just been somewhere. We've just been on a journey. Let's go and listen to that. We couldn't. It was decided there was no point in trying to do a second take. That was it. We had got. It was right. It was all there for us, So that was a one take situation there.
The studio musicians, how much did they do their own arranging, and how much did they rely on old charts? Because with the song you just mentioned, it very much felt like the arrangement of the original, where the Walk On By felt new, even though it had the feel of the Isaac Hayes. The arrangement felt new.
Oh yeah, it was. Yeah, there's a section in the middle there where it goes into its own thing, and I had to. That's the part I needed to think about because I didn't want it. I wanted it to sound natural vocally, as it did musically, And there was so much ad-libbing going on as well. There were a lot of climactic situations where suddenly Charles, and I don't know how he did signal a band, but suddenly we'd be like really hitting it, and all of a sudden it'd go whop down to a whisper. There's a couple of songs on there, and it was like, okay, now it's time to testify, and we go into these other world of ad-libs, and it was beautiful.
I'm curious, and I know from what I've read and also from what you've said that this music influenced you greatly when you were in your early and mid-teens. And I know that at that time, British media was pretty closed and almost all BBC. Where did you actually get the chance to hear the soul music that influenced you?
Yeah, well, it was a pretty closed, media-wise. It was hard to break into the BBC, and there wasn't that much opportunity. But there was some people. As far as listening to the music, I listened in clubs in my hometown in Middlesbrough. There was a particular club called the Purple Onion and the Kirk Levington, and I used to have a band. We'd play shows, and then we'd go to the club, and we'd listen to all this soul music, and we'd be around about 14, 15, 16. Through those years, and this was the music that was being played then, a lot of Stax, a lot of Otis Redding. That's how the influence came to me, Booker T and the MGs, Red Beans and Rice, and a lot of blues as well, a lot of John Lee Hooker and B.B. King, Albert King. So I was kind of soaking all that up before I came down to London from my hometown, formed free. But then the point was getting through to the media. John Peel gave us a chance. He was a radio DJ, and you would go to the BBC, and you'd actually re-record your songs in their studio, and they would air them. So the first song that I heard that was my own song was Walk in My Shadow. So, and then the other program was Bob Harris had a TV show called The Old Grey Whistle Test, and he gave us a break, which was really, really nice. But to get on something like Top of the Pops, you had to have a big selling record, and we managed to do that with All Right Now first of all. So you could break through, but it wasn't easy.
So when you were hearing the music of Otis Redding, Albert King, and O.V. Wright and so forth, you were actually more hearing cover versions than you were the originals because you were hearing them in clubs by live bands.
Oh, no, actually, I have to say, I was listening to there were live bands playing, yeah, but in between the live bands, they played actual records. They played, The Temptations and, as I mentioned, Otis Redding and all the soul stuff. Really, it was more soul in the clubs because it was danceable to than blues. Blues, we bought the records for, the old 45s and stuff, yeah.
How hard was it to take all of this influence that you had and pare down a list of songs that you wanted to record?
Well, the approach with this particular, the Royal Sessions, was a focus on Stax, because Stax has been, so many great records came out from Stax, and everything has been released on Stax, except, I think, Ann Peebles. And the reason Ann Peebles' I Can't Stand the Rain, the reason I did that song is because I saw the master in the studio, and I asked the Reverend Charles about it, and he said, oh yeah, she recorded that song right here in this studio, and we were the band. I was like, oh my gosh, can we try that one? He said, absolutely. And so we did our own version, and it made it onto the album. But we recorded quite a few songs and pared it down to what what I felt really was the strongest 10 tracks. So there was, yeah.
Is there a lot left over, or?
Oh, I don't think there's a ton of material, but there could be. We were very productive. We'd probably do about 2 tracks a day over a period of 10 days, and so there is some material, but all of it was. I think the 3 tracks you mentioned, they are being put out as bonus tracks, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, they actually, I'm sure they are. Walk in My Shadow was one. I think Shake was another, and there is one further.
Yeah, Wonderful World was the other one.
Oh, yeah. But all the tracks were I mean, there's nothing wrong with those. I didn't leave them off because there was anything problem with them at all. It's just that these 10 tracks, for me, not only did they make a nice list, listening-wise, 10 in a row, but we're going to release it on vinyl too, and it worked out that you would have 5, ending on That's How Strong My Love Is, and then side 2 would open with Walk On By. So that was part of the the process of putting the list together. That's how it would read on vinyl, and time came into it too. So it was all these equations.
Well, in this day and age, it's not a bad thing to have those extras, because a lot of people go back and release deluxe versions of albums and so forth. And of course, you have the exclusive now on Amazon. I know you also mentioned that it's in your mind that you might go back and do a second Royal Sessions.
You know what? It's just the way it went down, and the reaction we're getting, and the idea, and yeah, I mean, basically would be the short answer, because there's so much great material. Have a great band there, and people are definitely interested, and I love to bring this music back to life, because I love to present it back to a brand new public, perhaps, and even the older school who are revisiting it. It's such a joy for us to do, and I hope it's a joy for them to listen to.
Well, I think it's a great thing in that those who have followed you but know of you from more of a rock sound can get exposed to more music like this. It's something they may not have gone out of the way to listen to before,
No, I was going to say that's a very cool thing, and the idea that that Perry is very, very keen on analog, and he's reintroduced me back to vinyl, and I realize I miss it terribly. Listening to my old records, I bought a deck again, and I'm collecting vinyl, and you can find it now in old junk shops and various places and stuff, and it's a nice hobby to collect vinyl, and I love to listen to I was listening this morning to Junior Wells' Somebody Done Hoodoo, the Hoodoo Man. That is an awesome album. It's so underrated, and things like that to listen to on vinyl is such a pleasure. So we will release this on vinyl too. I don't know if I said that.
Did you have any trepidation going into the studio and re-recording some of these classics, or?
Yeah, I think if I had trepidation it had to be authentic. It had to sound right somehow. I mean, I was entering hallowed ground here. I didn't want to mess up my own history, as it were, because this is stuff I approach reverentially in a way, because it was 50 years ago that I was listening to it in the clubs and in my room in Saltersgill Avenue in Middlesbrough, as a kid, and dreaming of this. Wow, where does this come from? Where does the feeling come from? How did they record this? And all of the above, and just finding out about the history of Stax and how it was this cinema that was converted, and how they just made this music, and kids would hang out around the front, and so eventually they'd put a record store to sell their own products beside it, and it became the center of the whole area, and how the music just was organic in its growth, and it still kept a feeling of it wasn't slick, it wasn't like super professional, but it was super. They captured the spirit of the times, and a great time, really. Music shines for me.
So if you were to go back into the studio again to record more songs, what off the top of your head do you think would be on your list of songs that you missed this time around?
Well, I could tell you, Roger, but I think I don't want to jinx it by saying anything at this point. But there are loads of songs that I used to listen to that I think, oh, there's that one too. Oh, and that one. It all starts to come back to you. And the scope is limitless, really. There's such a wealth of fabulous material that's built up over those years.
One of the things that I didn't know about this until I was actually watching the electronic press kit a few days ago was that the proceeds from the album, and I don't know if this is just for U.S. schools or U.S. sales or for worldwide sales, the proceeds are going to the music education programs in Memphis.
Yeah, well, Perry and I, Perry Margaloof, my producer and my co-songwriter, actually, we've been writing songs together too. We financed the whole project, really, because it was labor of love, I mean, because he went down there and said, there's this great studio, and it's still as it was in the 50s, and all the musicians are there. Let's go and spend 3 days there and see what we come up with. So we went down and tried the 3 days, and it was so great. I said, right, let's come back and we'll make a full-on album, which we did. And so every day during the sessions, we'd drive from our rather nice hotel down into this economically challenged area, and there's this beautiful old building, and still standing there against the winds of time, and Willie Mitchell would run the place originally, and he's handed it over to his son, Boo Mitchell, who is keeping the flag flying and keeping the spirit going. And we'd look at it and say, well, we'd be driving, we'd say, wow, this music has given us so much, and here we are, in a way, we're kind of taking from it again. So we looked at each other and said, well, look, I'll tell you what, if it makes any money, let's give it back to Memphis somehow. We said, yeah, let's do that. And then it left us completely conscience-free, really. I mean, we could just enjoy playing the music. And looking at a way to do that, it turns out that Stax, which is just down the road, they run a school for teaching the kids music and understanding of I mean, it kept me off the streets, I must say, music did. So we said, let's do that. So we'll do that. And if it makes any profit, then that's what we'll do. And very happy to do that. And I do think, that music it encourages. It is. How can I put this? I saw a documentary where when music was included in the curriculum, everything improved. The maths, the English, the geography, everything. And when it was taken away, those things suffered. And there's something about music that opens people's minds and brings them together. I mean, I've definitely found this doing shows. And I mean, music is really a gift from the universe, whatever you want to call it. And we certainly will keep it alive, that's for sure.
You don't live in England anymore, correct?
That's correct, yes.
Okay. I don't know if you know, I was curious to find out. I mean, here in the United States, whenever there's a shortage in the budget, they always want to cut the arts. They never want to cut sports, but they want to cut the arts. And that's what I want to see fought against so much. Is it the same situation in England?
Yeah, I'm sure it is. I've never really got to that point of turning around and sort of looking at being responsible in a way, because I've lived my life as a rock singer, doing bands and thinking about me all the time, and all of a sudden it does occur to me that, wow, I've been given so much, from music, and so that's why I'm kind of doing that. But so I don't really know what the situation is in England, but I'm pretty sure it's a very similar idea of things. Yeah, for sure.
Well, it's a great thing you're doing to help the educational system down there and the kids in that area.
Well, man, we're having a blast. We're really having a ball doing it, and it's so wonderful that it's being so well received, because the music deserves it. It's the greatest.
What else do you have on your plate at the moment? Are you going to go out touring in support of the album a lot?
Well, I've got a U.S. tour from April the 29th through June the 7th. I only play about 25 or 30 shows each year, so I limit the amount of time that I play so that I can take time to live. I'll be doing that. I will definitely be supporting this album in every way I can. We're still talking about, we're still kind of taken aback by the reaction, which has been so positive. So we are talking about best ways of getting it out there, and maybe doing some TV shows, or maybe doing a show in a club in Memphis and filming that. That's another idea. So we're still looking at all the possibilities.
That actually is a great idea, because it was just about a year ago now that Neville brought out his My True Story, which was more doo-wop than Stax R&B, but he did do that with a club show and released it on DVD to go along with it. It's a great idea.
He's an amazing singer.
Yeah, he is.
God. Yeah.
That was one of my favorite albums of last year. Just yesterday or the day before, Brian May said that he thought Queen had one more tour in them, and from what you just said, it sounds like the answer will be no, but I would have to ask this, is any chance of your involvement at all with that?
I think they've already got somebody lined up. I joined forces with Queen, and we toured the world twice. We made live DVDs and CDs, and we finished up with a studio album of original material, and I felt at that point that 4 years, I was ready to move on and do, really go back to my own music. And we had a ball. It was fantastic. We played in some amazingly, the Eastern Europe. Where was it we played, sweetie, when the president got up and played?
Latvia, we played in Riga.
Oh, Latvia, Riga. And the president of the country got up he's a drummer, and he got up and played All Right Now with us. I said to Spike, where do we tell the folks back home, So I was happy to help resurrect them, and now they're off and running. I'm happy to see them do their thing, yeah.
Paul Rodgers' great album, The Royal Sessions, is available now from 429 Records. We'll be back soon with more editions of the VVN Music Podcast. Remember that you can hear the VVN Music Podcast via iHeartRadio, YouTube, iTunes, Stitcher, Libsyn, and the VVN Music website. For the latest news on the veteran artists of rock, pop, soul, country, folk, and blues, go to vvnmusic.com. If you have any comments or questions about the website or this podcast, please send them to vvnnetwork@gmail.com. Our theme music is performed by Yahar. The interview for this program was originally recorded on January 30th, 2014. The VVN Music Podcast is a production of the VVN Network, copyright 2017.